It is just gone 8 o'clock Central African time. Good evening and welcome to the news bulletin at 8, brought to you by Eswatini TV. My name is Sanebo Ngwane. Thank you so much for staying with us. We are coming to you live from our Hospital Hill studios in Babane, and these are our top stories tonight. Their Majesties have been deeply saddened by the passing away of the Minister of Labour and Social Security, Makhosi Villagati. The Minister of Finance says Eswatini's economy has increased by 1.3% in the third quarter last year. The Petroleum Act of 2020 has now been passed to law. And now the news in details. And here for our first story, the Minister of Labour and Social Security, Makhosi Villagati, has been laid to rest at Lamkapi area this morning in a state funeral. Their Majesty's representative, Pastor Samson Mhlanga, says the country has lost a dedicated and hard-working politician who committed himself to every given task. We have a report.
The Minister of Labour and Social Security, Makhosi Villagati, succumbed to COVID-19 related complications on Saturday last week in the Republic of South Africa, where he had been transferred for further treatment. Their Majesties have sent their condolences to government, his family, his constituency and the entire nation. Pastor Samson Mhlanga, who represented their Majesties, says they are saddened by Villagati's passing. He says their Majesties are in shock and in pain.
Ngithunywa inkosi ngwenyama emhlaba nendlovukazi ukuthi ngide lapha ekhaya nilethe buhlungu bawo emakhosi athi boVilagati angidela ekhaya ngidowulila phule nje sililo ukuthi njoba nani nisesililweni emakhosi emhlaba nawo akulesililo akulobuhlungu lenila kubo lapha nje bekunene njengoba nisebuhlungwini nenkosi isebuhlungwini lelija lelihambile nebekunene inkosi ithi yathi seyifikile eParliament ngekukhethwa sive sakalamgabi lelija inkosi yaseyalibona ukuthi lisebenzise ibe sihlangu salo lelija yaseyalikhetha inkosi ukuthi lisebenze nebekunene ilisebenzele lelive ngoba ingwenyama lelive inemaphupho ngalo ineqhubekela phambili yaseyamfaka ke Villagati ku cabinet ukuthi abe ngilokusebenza khona bekubhekekile ke bekunene ukuthi Villagati aqhubeke njengejali ebelisencane.
The Minister of Sports, Culture and Youth Affairs, Harris Bulunga, who represented government, says Villagati was a team player who was always willing to work.
Minister Villagati was a true action-oriented person, always bemoaning the long meetings that you normally have in cabinet in favor of being out and about, serving and working to implement the various decisions taken by his ministry and government.
Gege Member of Parliament Musa Gunene, who represented Parliament, says Villagati was always willing to learn the procedures in the House of Assembly and looking for ways to better the lives of eMaswati.
Ngifuna nokuthi futhi ke esiveni salakalamgabi naso singesabi kakhulu ema project abaqhubeke eshemeni bawalethe kule system yethu edingule sebenza ngayo nitawuqhubeka nibenefit ezikhwameni lekhona tonke.
Mbali Villagati, the minister's wife, says although she does not know how she will go through the journey of life on her own, she will hold on to the love her husband gave to her. Her friend Temgosi Mnisi spoke on her behalf.
I wished I could have met you a lot earlier, my love. You turned my life around and made me a different person. You were never easy, yet very easy to deal with. You always wanted to see everyone around you happy. Our time together may have been cut short sooner, but the happiness and life we shared together will last a lifetime. Today, I mourn the loss of my husband, my best friend, my everything. I find comfort in knowing that you loved me so much. I will hold on to that. We had our bad times and good times like any other couple. I thank God we were able to maneuver through all the tides of life together up until the last breath as per our wedding vows.
Other speakers included Friends, Eswatini National Provident Fund, International Labour Organization, CIMAC, and the constituency, amongst others. All these speakers described Villagati as a dedicated politician who loved his family. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Nelson Langamandla in Babane.
The Minister of Finance, Neil Rickenback, says Eswatini's economy increased by 1.3% in the third quarter last year when compared to the same period in 2019.
Last week, the central bank released the monetary statement reporting that the country's economy improved in the third quarter of last year by 1.3% on year-on-year seasonally adjusted basis compared to 2019. The Minister of Finance, Neil Rickenback, explains what this means. Obviously,
the main thing about the monetary policy statement is the discount rate. The discount rate remained the same at 3.75%, which is low and which definitely helps the economy to recover. It means lending is a bit cheaper. It helps to keep inflation down in the country and helps the economy to recover post-COVID. So in the last quarter, we're now referring to the third quarter of the year, which is July, August, and September 2020. The economy grew with 1.3% if one compares it quarter to quarter. So it means we're now comparing it to the third quarter of 2019. So if you compare the same 3 months in 2019 to the 3 months in 2020, the economy grew with 1.3%. Keeping in mind this is seasonally adjusted, so one does make adjustments in the numbers to accommodate what happens with season fluctuations. For instance, when one has the maize harvest in the country, there might be a bump. So we just do seasonally adjusted figures to be able to accommodate those, so it's not those spikes that throw us off. But we must keep in mind that is now off the previous quarter, which is when lockdown happened in the country and our economy did get it did suffer the consequences of that from a minus 9.1. But I think what is also quite interesting, what is also good to see, and that is that if one now compares quarter to quarter, so we're just taking from the second quarter of 2020 to the third quarter of 2020, there was a 10.1% growth in the economy, and that is showing at least that our economy has rebounded from the lockdown and from the main pain that we took during the lockdown of the first COVID spike, and the economy, in a sense, is back on track. So that's the bottom line, and that is how one explains the growth rates that we have seen in the policy statement.
The bank says last year the revised economy decline in the second quarter was at 9.1%. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Nelson Ndlangamandla with Muzim Konda in Babane.
The Petroleum Act of 2020 has now been passed to law. Among other things, the Act will ensure that the National Oil Company continues to exist. The company, which was registered in terms of the Companies Act of 2005, will now have laid out objectives contained in the Act. Our reporter, Temekose Mavimbela, has more on that story.
The Petroleum Act of 2020 will provide for the reconnaissance, exploration, production and disposal of petroleum products, their administration and management, and for incidental matters. The Act states that the National Oil Company will continue to exist as if established under this Act. It also states that the company will be a Category A public enterprise. The company will be able to sue and be sued. It will also have a board of directors, with government being its sole shareholder. Investors who hope to acquire shares from the company will have to wait for Parliament approval and authorization as stated by the Act. Some of its objectives include securing, marketing, trading in crude oil and petroleum products. It will also be expected to carry out the business of supplying and distributing petroleum and petroleum products into and from the Kingdom of Eswatini. The company will issue rural area retail licenses in key national development areas, as well as identify, build, own and manage hydrocarbon terminals. It will further empower local companies through partnerships and joint ventures with indigenous Eswatini as may be prescribed in the regulations. The Ministry of Natural Resources and Energy will have the duty to oversee matters relating to this act. When sought for comment, the ministry said a statement will be made in a few weeks. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela, Mbabane.
The tropical storm that swept through Eswatini on Sunday and Monday left a trail of destruction and maize fields at Maphalaleni. Now, farmers in this constituency say they were looking forward to a bamba harvest this year, but that will no longer be the case as the crops were totally destroyed. Our reporter Kian MCB has more on that story.
Cyclone Eloise left a trail of destruction in maize fields at Maphalaleni area, leaving farmers in a state of shock as the maize was promising at that stage. Bridges connecting to Maphalaleni area are in a total state of destruction and roads are slippery and in a bad state. The Maphalaleni Member of Parliament Mabulala Maseko says they needed the rains, but when they are too much, they then become a problem. He says most farmers are still confused on their next move because they had hoped for a better harvest this year.
Kwathi sekuthi kuphila kwemvelo kuncike kakhulu emvuleni, kepha ke ibe seseyiqhamuka ngamandla lamakhulu. Yaqala ngelisondo lekubo 5:30 ekuseni. Awulathela toti sabona athi nembalangu zamqolo emanti enyuka emifuleni. Sabona emanti yasangena emasimini kwagcibetheleka amabloho. Sabona athi awucha nembalangu zamqolo. Umonakalo vele ube mkhulu la masimini njengoba nje netithombe tikhombisa. Balimi balimele kanti maye bakhuthele beMaphalaleni baye ba investe kakhulu la kulimeni. Kwathi sekokuthi uNkulunkulu wasibusisa ngemhlaba lomuhle nengekuthi vele siyafuna lokulondlaleli laseSwatini. Kepha ke nasekwenteka kanjena sibe sasathi ukuthi ngebe sestabhica ini sithinze nani. Kungaba nje kuba kuwalilele amafamasi lalimele kakhulu. Ulilela na uhulumende ngoba phela ukukhicithwa kokudla eMaphalaleni kuphila kwelive, kuphila kwaHulumende. Sesithi nje ngaba kubalilela Nkosi yami bantu benkosi sithembe ukuthi lokunye kodwa kutawuvuka ikakhulu lombila lobo sesemncane lobo omkhulu vele sowulimele kulimala.
He says there is a lot to consider right now. They do not know where to start, but they will assist where they can. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian MCB with Zodwa Dlamini and Mbonga Dube, Maphalaleni.
And now from the High Court of Eswatini tonight, the Crown is ready to prosecute former Minister of Public Works and Transport Ntutuko Dlamini, and the Chief Justice has also consented to the matter proceeding. The Crown is expected to parade 16 witnesses during the trial. Our reporter Temegosi Mavimbela has more on that story.
One of the witnesses in the trial of former Minister of Public Works and Transport Ntutuko Dlamini is a survivor who was one of the 3 allegedly shot by Dlamini. This witness will tell the court that on the 7th of September 2020, the accused approached them at Mhlabubovu in the company of 3 men. The witness will tell the court that Dlamini found them allocating land to someone and asked them what they were doing. He will also tell the court that one of the people who were present responded to Dlamini and said to him he should consult about their presence from Chief Lamelele, who had sent them. The witness will submit that Dlamini referred to them as trash, and that was when one member of the group allocating land approached the accused and advised him against using this term to refer to them. The witness will tell the court that he stood up and told the 2 to stop what they were doing, and that was when Dlamini allegedly shot him on his left arm and twice in the stomach. The witness will tell the court that he then ran away and hid next to a tree, then saw Sikhulu Shongwe going down after being shot by Dlamini. He will go on to tell the court that he saw Zamini shooting Themba Tabetse. The witness will also tell the court that after seeing that things were getting worse, he ran towards the Lusuthu River and heard more gunshots being fired. He will further tell the court that he hid until he was found and taken to the Mangayane Government Hospital and later transferred to the Mbabane Government Hospital. The Crown will parade 16 witnesses in the matter, in which Zamini faces 4 charges. 2 are for murder, 1 is for attempted murder, and the other count being for being in possession of a firearm without a valid license. Zamini is represented by Noncedo Ndlangamandla in the matter, and standing for the Crown are lawyers from the Chamber of the Director of Public Prosecutions. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela, Babane.
The government of Eswatini is now focusing on constructing buildings and infrastructure which can withstand extreme weather events like cyclones caused by climate change and global warming. This is an update given by Microprojects Director Sibusiso Mbingo.
Microprojects Director Sibusiso Mbingo says they are giving attention to detail when doing projects assigned to them by government. He says they take into account the ever-changing weather conditions which could have bad effects on the infrastructure like the recent cyclone. He states that they have received reports from different communities after the cyclone and their bridges were able to weather the storm. He says not even one of them was swept away. He continues to say that even the 7 suspended footbridges built in collaboration with Engineers in Action were not affected by the recent storms. Brittany from Engineers in Action says the suspended footbridges are built in such a way that they are far above possible rising water levels. Strong there.
Yeah, so the bridges that we build with Engineers in Action and microprojects, they're very strong, these bridges. We design them for these high flooding events because you'll find that they come and they cut off access of the communities nearby. So these bridges are actually designed for very extreme high water levels, like you've seen recently with the cyclone flooding with Eloise. So yeah, the bridges are designed to weather those types of 100-year storms that you see very rarely. And then we design above that. So the bridges they're very strong.
She says they are planning to build 4 more suspended footbridges in 4 constituencies in the country this year. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Nelson Ndlangamandla in Mbabane.
And still on the High Court of Eswatini today, the court has revoked Lakimanana's bail in his attempted murder and assault with intent to cause bodily harm case. The court has also ruled that the bond taken on his admission to bail be forfeited. This follows that Manana was found to have been in contempt of court for failing to appear in a scheduled court appearance. Temeko Mavimbela has more on that story.
It was a day of joy for Lakimana when he was granted bail by the High Court. Manana was arrested for alleged attempted murder in that he reportedly hacked Thandi Hlachwago with a bush knife all over the body in 2012. Another charge he faces is assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. Manana allegedly did this by hacking Mangwangwa Lukele with a bush knife all over the body. Manana was granted bail. However, the conditions and date of when this happened are not known, as his court papers can no longer be found. The accused had to appear before court on the 15th of April 2020 for trial, but he did not show up. The Crown submitted that Manana's whereabouts were not known and last reported to the Gapunga police station in 2014. The state also submitted that Manana's wife told them that the accused left for South Africa. Police also submitted that Manana was a truck driver in the neighboring country. They further submitted that they last saw him in 2019 when his wife was arrested for assault. After failing to appear in court for his trial, Manana was then arrested in July 2020. The court said he should give reason why he should not be held to be in contempt for his failure to attend trial. Manana told the court that court papers for his bail could not be found and these contained his bail conditions. He also told the court that going to the Gapunga police station in 2019 showed that he was not evading the law. Through his lawyer, Osponzima, Manana pleaded with the court to give him one last chance if found to have breached his bail conditions. The court said the Criminal Procedure and Evidence Act states that an accused person admitted to bail shall attend during hearing of a case. The court then ordered that Manana's bail be revoked and that the bond taken on his admission to bail be declared forfeited. The matter was before Judge Dikeme Zamini. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela, High Court.
Falls experienced in the country as a result of tropical cyclone Eloise, which made landfall in neighboring countries, caused damage on some parts of the kingdom's mobile communications infrastructure. Now, MTN Eswatini Corporate Communications Manager Mandla Pondo says 9% of their network infrastructure was damaged. And Gyan MCB has more on that story.
The news crew had an interview with the different telecommunications companies in the country in order to gauge if there were any interruptions on the network and on infrastructure as a result of the cyclone this past weekend. The MTN Communications and Corporate Affairs Manager, Mandla Lupondo, says the damage was not that much, but only about 9% of the damage was received.
Of the 430 network sites that MTN has across the country, only 39 were affected by electrical power interruptions. This basically represents 9% of MTN's network sites, which were down due to power outages. But as soon as power was restored, our customers were able to enjoy seamless connection. May I indicate that the strength of MTN network has been made possible by massive investment every year. Last year, for instance, MTN constructed 30 4G sites across the country. MTN construct new network areas each year to ensure that connection is faster, extensive and resilient, even during turbulent times such as the recent storm.
The Communications and Corporate Affairs Manager of the Eswatini Post and Telecommunications Company, Ngobile Makakula, says they have not received any major faults or reports, but rather urged the public to report if they will see any faults.
Labo nabatawubona nje umonakalo loconzene kanye nenkampani mabosi bariporte ku971 noma ku910 lapho khona ke batawukhona ukuthi batfole isito.
She urges the public to unplug or disconnect modems when there is thunder. She says they can report to 971 or 910 for assistance. Eswatini Mobile's communications officer, Nosi Poshongwe, said they were still assessing the situation due to damaged roads and bridges. They are unable to compile a full report, but once they have, they will compile and send the report to the news crew. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian MC with Muzum Konta, Mbabane.
Ratepayers Association Chairperson Solomon Ngumalo has urged ratepayers in the capital city to use alternative ways of submitting their complaints and concerns rather than physical meetings. He says the association is not in a position to convene meetings.
Mbabane ratepayers were supposed to have a meeting on the 13th of February to discuss certain issues with regards to rate paying and submissions in Mbabane. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the banning of gatherings by government, the meeting is no more. The Mbabane Ratepayers Chairperson Solomon Ngumalo urges ratepayers to consider other methods of submitting their concerns and to be loyal in paying their rates.
The main reason for the meeting was to review or make submissions of the Rating Act or Urban Government Act, Deeds Registry Act, and maybe also the Building Act. We need to do this because each time we speak about the rating, they tell you about the act, that the act is there. Why do you what you want to change, or what do you want us to do? The Urban Government Act is there, same thing. So they are really holding on to the two acts which are now not in conformity with the Swaziland National Constitution. They are not in conformity. So we would like to get those things done. So if people have got points that they want to raise, they can send them to me so that I can then pass it on to the portfolio committee.
He says some of the acts need to be discussed and reviewed by the committee before they can be forwarded to the relevant structures. For Eswatini TV News, I'm KNMC with Muzum Konda, Mbabane.
Moving further afield, we take a look at news making headlines internationally. The World Health Organization says all countries should vaccinate healthcare workers and elderly people within the first 100 days of this year to contain the spread of COVID-19. WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom says the world is running out of time to contain the pandemic, and these situations calls for countries to act fast and decisively. He was speaking during the closing session of the organization's virtual meeting on Saturday.
This Saturday marks 1 year since I declared a public health emergency of international concern over the emergence of the novel coronavirus. At the time, there were fewer than 100 cases, and to be exact, 98 cases, and no deaths reported outside China. This week, we expect to reach 100 million reported cases, and more than 2 million people have lost their lives. When this board met a year ago, I said the world had a window of opportunity to prevent widespread transmission of this new virus. Some heeded that call, some did not. Now, vaccines are giving us another window of opportunity to bring the pandemic under control. We must not squander it. As we speak, rich countries are rolling out vaccines, while the world's least developed countries watch and wait. With every day that passes, the divide grows larger between the world's haves and have-nots. I leave you with a challenge I set at the beginning of the week. Together, we must ensure that vaccination of health workers and older people is underway in all countries within the first 100 days of this year. We have 74 days left. Time is short, and the stakes could not be higher. Every moment counts.
Well, Eswatini, let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll take a look at news making headlines and sports. Stay with us.
It's 2021. Started off with a win. At Spar, we have wins everywhere. You could be one of hundreds of shoppers to win your shopping for free, instantly. And keep winning when you save on Spar French Polony for only $39.99 and Sunlight hand washing powder for just $54.99. Start 2021 with a win. Start with Spar.
Welcome back. You're still watching News Bulletin at 8, brought to you by Eswatini TV. Now we shall take a look at news making headlines and sports. Dunk Lane Basketball Academy coach Mzwaka Piri says the new partnership formed by Eswatini with the United Nations Basketball Association will help take young players to train internationally. Piri says such partnerships will help improve the sports and the level of players' competitiveness. Patizom CB has more on that story.
Dunk Lane Basketball Academy, which is now 10 years old, put all their focus on developing young players
The academy has even attracted international attention because of the sterling job they have been doing. The academy has since struck a partnership with an international association known as United Nations Basketball Association, which scouts for talent all over the world and conduct training camps in selected countries. Mzwakapil, who is the director and coach of the academy, says this will benefit the youngsters and the country as a whole.
And it's going to help out a lot as a country of Eswatini and also basketball Eswatini as the young bowlers will be able to benefit basketball skills from coaches from overseas and also of course getting into basketball camps as 3 or 2 players would be chosen in each and every academy in each country to go to any of the basketball camps which will be actually set for them to go to.
Peter says coaches will also get an opportunity to go learn more in the future. He says though the COVID-19 outbreak has delayed the start of the activities they had planned. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizwa Msibi, Mbabane.
Well, Eswatini, that brings us to the end of our news bulletin at 8 yet. Eswatini TV, thank you so much for staying with us. We shall cross over to the Weather Center for a detailed weather report from us and the rest of the transmission team. Yet Eswatini TV. For now, it's good night and God bless.